All right, so today we're going to be diving into the world of Thich Nhat Hanh,
Wow.
specifically his audiobook, Peace is Every Breath, a practice for our busy lives.
Hmm.
And, you're interested in the practical side of mindfulness and
Yeah.
how to kind of like weave it into daily life.
Right.
So we're going to be exploring how even simple actions can become these like mini meditations,
Yeah.
bringing us more peace throughout the day.
What I find so fascinating about Thich Nhat Hanh's teachings
Mm-hmm.
is that he doesn't see mindfulness as like
Yeah.
this separate thing, from our lives.
Mm-hmm.
He really emphasizes that like every moment, from just like waking up to washing the dishes holds the potential for presence and awareness.
That's so true. It's not about like adding, more tasks to our already like packed schedules,
Right.
but about changing how we approach the things we already do.
Exactly.
But how do we actually like shift that perspective?
Yeah.
The audiobook starts with like the foundation of mindfulness and concentration.
Right.
I'm curious, how does he connect those two ideas?
So he explains that mindfulness is really what brings us back to the present moment.
Yeah. Oh,
It
yeah.
allows us to experience it without judgment. And then concentration allows us to look deeply into that present moment, into our actions, feelings, experiences.
So it's not just about being aware, but about really like paying attention to what's happening within and around us.
Exactly. And he uses this beautiful analogy of the breath as a unifier
Okay.
for the body and mind.
Uh-huh.
He talks about how the breath brings together the five skandhas,
Okay.
those elements that make up a person, the physical body, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness.
That makes me think of how often, like, we're so scattered,
Right.
our minds are racing from one thought to the next.
Yeah.
It's like our breath is the anchor that brings us back to ourselves.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And speaking of anchors,
Okay.
Thich Nhat Hanh provides these specific practices to help us cultivate this mindfulness throughout the day.
Hmm.
He takes us through sort of like a day in the life with mindfulness.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Walk me through it. What's the first step?
So it starts with waking up.
Okay.
Instead of just like jumping right into the day's to-do list,
Right.
he suggests taking a moment to smile
Hmm.
and recite a gatha,
Okay.
a short verse that helps to focus the mind.
Okay.
And one that he offers is, waking up this morning, I smile. 24 brand new hours are before me. I vow to live each moment fully and to look at all beings with eyes of compassion.
That's so simple, yet so powerful.
Right?
Just starting the day with a smile and that positive intention can like make a huge difference.
Absolutely. And then he moves into like these everyday routines,
Okay.
like just running water, washing your face.
Okay.
I have to admit, when I first read this, I
Yeah.
was like, how can washing my face be a mindful practice?
I know it seems so mundane.
Right.
But what does he say?
He encourages us to think about the journey of the water, like where it came from,
Mm.
how it got to our tap, and then to really savor the feeling of the water on our skin,
Yeah.
the simple sensations that we usually take for granted.
It's like finding the extraordinary in the ordinary,
then-
appreciating those little things that we often overlook.
Exactly. And he doesn't stop there. Even brushing our teeth can become this mindful act.
Really? How so?
He suggests reciting this gatha while brushing. Brushing my teeth and rinsing my mouth, I vow to speak purely and lovingly. When my mouth is fragrant with right speech, the flower blooms in the garden of my heart.
Wow. I love that it's like transforming a chore into an opportunity to cultivate kindness and positive speech.
And that's the beauty of his approach. It's not about adding more to our lives, but about bringing mindful awareness to what we already do.
So we've seen how he applies it to like waking up and basic hygiene.
Right.
What about other parts of the morning routine, like breakfast?
He emphasizes mindful eating, like preparing the food with awareness, savoring each bite, appreciating the nourishment it provides.
Mm.
He even talks about eating in silence, minimizing distractions, and truly connecting with the experience of eating.
That's something I struggle with.
Yeah?
I'm often like rushing through meals, checking my phone, barely even tasting the food.
Right.
It makes me realize how much I miss out on when I'm not present.
It's something we can all work on, but even if we can incorporate it into just like one meal a day, it can make a difference.
Yeah.
And speaking of movement, the next practice he discusses is walking meditation.
Yes, I've heard of walking meditation, but I've never really understood how it works.
It's actually quite simple.
Okay.
It's about coordinating your breath with your steps, feeling the sensations of your feet on the ground,
Okay.
and bringing awareness to the act of walking.
Uh-huh.
And you can do it anywhere, whether you're walking to work or strolling through a park.
I love that it's like taking a break from the constant mental chatter and just focusing on like the physical sensations of movement.
And it can be incredibly grounding and calming, especially in the midst of a busy day.
So we've explored how mindfulness can be woven into the flow of our morning.
Yeah.
But what about when things get tough?
Right.
Does the audiobook address handling challenges with mindfulness?
Yes, absolutely. And that's where we'll delve into next. We'll explore how Thich Nhat Hanh's teachings can help us navigate difficult emotions, negative habits, and even the weight of the past.
So we've seen how mindfulness can be like integrated into those morning routines.
Right.
But life isn't always smooth sailing, right?
Of course not, no.
How do Thich Nhat Hanh's teachings help us when we're facing challenges,
Yeah.
those inevitable rough patches we all encounter?
Well, he tackles that head on. And one of the things that really struck me was his perspective on like negative habits,
Hmm.
especially, those that stem from worrying about the future.
You mean like that constant loop of what ifs that
Exactly.
can just take over our minds?
Yeah, yeah.
I think we've all been there.
We all have.
What does he suggest?
Well, he emphasizes that mindfulness isn't about like suppressing those thoughts, but rather about recognizing them as they arise.
Okay.
It's about acknowledging their presence without getting like swept away by them.
Oh, that makes sense. It's like creating a space between ourselves and those thoughts,
Well,
so we're not completely consumed by them.
yeah, and he uses this powerful image
Okay.
to describe how to handle strong emotions.
Hmm.
He talks about retreating to the trunk of the tree.
The trunk of the tree.
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
So he explains that when we're overwhelmed by emotions, it's like
Mhm.
being caught in the branches of a tree
Okay.
during a storm,
Yeah.
tossed around by the wind.
Right.
But if we can ground ourselves, in our breath in the present moment,
Mm.
it's like finding stability in that solid trunk of the tree.
Ah, I see. It's about finding that center,
Yeah.
that place of stillness within ourselves, even when everything around us feels chaotic.
Precisely. And this connects to another important point he makes.
Okay.
The prison of the past. He talks about how we can get trapped by painful memories, reliving them over and over again.
Yeah, it's like those memories have this hold on us,
Right.
preventing us from fully experiencing the present moment.
Yeah, he suggests using mindful breathing as like a seatbelt
Okay.
to stay present,
Mm.
to prevent ourselves from being pulled back into, those old patterns of suffering.
So it's not about denying the past,
No.
but about learning to relate to it in a healthier way,
Right.
so it doesn't control our present.
Exactly. And this is where his teachings on impermanence and no self come in.
Okay.
He reminds us that everything is in constant flux. Nothing stays the same.
Right.
And recognizing this can be incredibly liberating because it helps us let go of attachments
Mhm.
and appreciate the preciousness of each moment.
I'm curious, how does he explain these concepts, especially no self,
Right.
which can be kind of tricky to grasp?
Yeah. It could be a tough one. He does it beautifully, though.
Right.
He explains that there's no separate independent self that exists apart from everything else.
Okay.
We're all interconnected,
Hmm.
constantly influencing and being influenced by the world around us.
So it's like that saying, no man is an island.
Yes,
Yeah.
very much so. He uses the example of a flower.
Okay.
A flower can't exist on its own right.
Right.
It needs the soil, the sun, the rain.
Mm-hmm.
It's made up of all these non-flower elements.
And we're like that too,
Yeah,
right?
we're truly.
We're a combination of our experiences, our relationships, our environment.
Yeah,
It's almost humbling to think about it that way.
it is. And understanding this interconnectedness is the foundation for compassion.
Okay.
When we see ourselves in others,
Yeah.
when we recognize our shared humanity,
Nah.
it becomes much easier to feel empathy and kindness.
This is making me think about how often we get caught up in judging ourselves and others.
Yeah.
It's like we forget that we're all part of this intricate web of life.
That's a great point. And this leads us to another fascinating concept, that Thich Nhat Hanh explores the store consciousness.
Okay. I have to admit that one's always intrigued me.
It's a good one.
What exactly is the store consciousness?
So he describes it as this vast storehouse of all our past experiences,
Okay.
thoughts and emotions.
Mm.
It's like the subconscious mind in Western psychology.
Okay.
And he says these past experiences, these seeds of emotions,
Yeah.
can deeply affect our present perceptions and actions.
So even if we're not consciously thinking about past hurts or traumas,
Right.
they can still be influencing us.
Yes, they can be lurking in the background, shaping our reactions and behaviors.
Interesting.
Thich Nhat Hanh calls this inappropriate attention.
Okay.
When we get caught in negative mental patterns that stem from the store consciousness,
It's almost like we're on autopilot,
Yeah,
reacting to present situations based on past conditioning.
that's a great way to put it. But he also offers a solution.
Okay, good.
He says that by cultivating present moment awareness through mindfulness, we can start to recognize when we're being pulled into those old familiar stories.
Oh, okay.
And we can choose to focus our attention on things that nourish our minds and bodies instead.
So it's about becoming aware of those ingrained patterns
Right.
and making conscious choices to break free from them.
Exactly. He calls this appropriate attention.
Hmm.
Intentionally choosing to focus on things that uplift and inspire us rather than dwelling on negativity.
Okay.
And he applies this concept to mindful consumption.
Mindful consumption, you mean like being aware of what we're eating?
Yes, but it goes beyond food. It's about
Yeah.
being conscious of everything we consume,
Okay.
not just what we put into our bodies, but also the information we take in the media. We expose ourselves to even our own thoughts.
It's like being mindful of our mental and emotional diet, just as we might be mindful of what we're feeding our physical bodies.
Precisely. And ultimately, this is all about finding true happiness.
Okay.
Thich Nhat Hanh reminds us that we already have enough conditions for happiness
Mm.
in the present moment. We don't need to wait for some future event or achievement to experience joy and peace.
That's such a powerful message,
Right.
especially in a culture that's always striving for more,
Yeah.
always looking ahead to the next thing.
Always wanting more.
He's reminding us to appreciate the beauty and wonder that already exists
Yes.
right here, right now.
Right here, right now. Exactly. And he emphasizes that happiness is not a destination.
Okay.
It's a way of being.
Mm.
It's about cultivating a mindful presence,
Mm.
appreciating the simple joys of life,
Uh-huh.
and recognizing our interconnectedness with all things.
This is really resonating with me. It's like he's offering a roadmap to a more peaceful and fulfilling life.
Yeah.
Not through like grand gestures or
Well,
external achievements,
no.
but through these simple everyday practices
Yeah.
that cultivate awareness and compassion.
And that's what we'll delve into next. We'll explore the specific practices and gathas that Thich Nhat Hanh offers to help us integrate mindfulness into every moment, from waking up to ending the day.
It's amazing how he like takes these complex concepts like
Yeah.
impermanence and no self
Right.
and makes them feel so applicable
Yeah.
to everyday life.
To everyday life. Exactly.
But I'm curious about the actual like practices he suggests.
Uh,
How can we start to like weave this mindfulness
Yeah.
into our daily routines?
So that's where the gathas come in.
Okay.
They're these short verses or poems
Hmm.
that you can recite throughout the day to kind of like anchor your mind
Okay.
in the present moment.
Mm.
Think of them as like little reminders
Yeah.
to cultivate mindfulness
Okay.
during different activities.
I love that. So it's not about carving out extra time for meditation,
Right.
but infusing our existing actions with intention.
Exactly.
Can you give me some examples?
Well, we already mentioned the waking up gatha.
Yeah.
Waking up this morning, I smile. 24 brand new hours are before me. I vow to live each moment fully and to look at all beings with eyes of compassion.
Right. That one really sets the tone for the day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But there's also one for something as simple as like turning on the water.
Okay.
Water flows from high mountain sources. Water runs deep in the earth. Miraculously, water comes to us. I am filled with gratitude.
Wow. It really makes you think about like the journey of that water
Yeah.
and the interconnectedness of everything.
And that's the point. You
Yeah.
know, to transform these mundane actions
Yeah.
into moments of awareness
Yeah.
and appreciation.
I love that.
There are gathas for all sorts of things.
Okay.
Brushing your teeth, eating wine, even answering the phone.
So it's like creating a soundtrack of mindfulness throughout the day.
Yes, exactly.
Do you have a personal favorite gatha?
You know, I find myself drawn to the one for eating.
Okay.
This food is a gift of the earth, the sky, numerous living beings, and much hard work. May we eat with mindfulness and gratitude so as to be worthy to receive it.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I often rush through meals without really like appreciating the food
Right.
or the effort it took to get to my plate.
And this gatha brings that awareness to the forefront.
Yeah.
It's a practice in cultivating gratitude for the abundance in our lives.
I'm feeling inspired to start incorporating these gathas into my own life.
That's great.
What would be a good place to begin?
I think Thich Nhat Hanh suggests starting with one or two
Okay.
that resonate with you.
Hmm.
and practicing them regularly.
Hmm.
Choose something that feels relevant to your daily routine.
Okay.
You could start with the waking up gatha,
Yeah.
or maybe the one for turning on the water.
Yeah, and then gradually add more as they become part of my natural flow.
Exactly. The goal is to weave these practices into your life in a way that feels sustainable,
Right.
not overwhelming.
This deep dive has been incredibly eye-opening.
Good.
What I'm taking away is that peace and happiness aren't some distant destination,
Yeah.
but something we can cultivate,
Yeah.
moment to moment.
Moment to moment.
Mindfulness.
And that's the heart of Thich Nhat Hanh's message. Peace is every breath. It's available to us if we learn to pay attention, to truly be present in each moment.
So, dear listener, we leave you with this question.
Okay.
What's one small action you can commit to doing mindfully today?
Mm,
Maybe it's savoring your morning coffee,
yeah.
taking a mindful walk,
Yeah.
or simply noticing the sensations of your breath.
Good one.
Remember, as Thich Nhat Hanh teaches us, the path to peace and happiness starts with a single step, a single breath, a single moment of awareness.
If you're interested in exploring these ideas further, we highly recommend Thich Nhat Hanh's book, Peace is Every Breath. It's a wonderful guide to living a more mindful life.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into mindfulness.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope it's left you with some inspiration
Yeah,
to bring more peace and presence into your own life.
absolutely.
Until next time, remember, peace is every breath.